Hey guys, welcome to Sketch and Brew, where we sip something caffeinated, sketch, learn to become better artists together. I'm Tom. In today's video, I'm going to break down how to draw a realistic eye, along with a hefty dose of how to draw the skin texture around it. So if you're mainly interested in just learning how to draw the eye, I've included timestamps and a list of all the tools and materials I use in this video below. So with that down, let's not waste any more time and jump right on into it. I begin by sketching the eyebrow, with an arch that follows the brow bone. Keeping my pressure very light, I also loosely sketch the hair texture before moving down to add the fold above the eye. From there, I sketch the overall shape of the eye itself, aiming for a loose, almond-shaped outline. The small, inward-pointing triangle here forms the lacrimal caruncle. With short upward strokes, I form the lashes, gently curving them at the corners. Then, I draw the lower eyelid margin, a thin fold of skin that actually contacts the eyeball. With that down, I outline the iris, which is circular, centered, and sits partly under the upper lid. In the center of that, I sketch the pupil. To finish the sketch phase, I add the lower lashes, also gently curving them at the corners. I begin darkening the eyebrow's hair texture, focusing on the outer edge to the left. I'm using short, varied strokes to draw hairs that rise gently and fan outward along the brow's curve. I then add some light foundational values in the upper left corner. From here, I get into a bit of a rhythm, drawing more hair on the brow, then cycling back to adding more foundational values above. I'm adding more pressure to my strokes now and following the natural direction of hair growth. Here, I add a dark layer of strokes over the brow, keeping the inner hairs shorter and more broken, while varying the length along the upper edge for a natural look. At the same time, I darken the spaces between the hairs to suggest the skin beneath and the subtle shadows that form within each cluster. Next, I darken the fold above the eye, also known as the eyelid crease, and begin shading the brow ridge, the area between the crease and the eyebrow. My goal here is to add depth and a hint of skin texture. I'm working with a simple, centered, top-down light source that casts deeper shadows across the brow ridge and leaves lighter tones along the outer edge. I'm layering more graphite near the eyelid crease, creating a smooth gradient that's darkest inside the fold and lightens upward. I switch between my 4B pencil for details and the clutch holder for broader shading, using short, overlapping strokes to build texture and control value. After a coffee break, I continue. The values are taking shape. A soft shadow above the brow fades into mid-tones and light across the forehead. Along the brow ridge, a shadow left of the crease transitions to light, then darkens again near the inner brow. I darken the upper eyelid margin to show the shadow where the lid meets the eye. Using my 0.5mm 4B mechanical pencil, I draw the lashes with varied lengths. Shorter near the inner corner and longer toward the outer edge. Some are single curved strokes, while others group together for a more natural look. Here, I'm darkening the upper lash area. I avoid using a single flat tone and instead vary my pencil pressure to create a soft, natural transition of shadow. Next, I shade the eyelid above, keeping it lighter but using the same approach for a natural transition. I softly outline the lacrimal caruncle with a light feathered shadow to prepare it for later shading. Then I deepen the tone of the upper lid and darken the lashes again to restore their contrast. Now, I jump into shading the eye itself. I start by outlining the iris to refine its contour and define the shading area. Just below the upper lid, I lightly mark the highlight and add a few vertical strokes to suggest reflections from the lashes. Then I outline the shadow edge cast by the upper lid onto the eye. I texture the iris with faint radial striations around the pupil, then fill the shadowed area with a rich dark tone. I darken the iris contour with a soft feathered shadow known as the limbo ring. Following that, I use my mechanical pencil and clutch holder to fill the pupil with a deep dark tone. Then, I shade along the pupil's outer edge, following the direction of the iris striations. At the same time, I add shading around the inner edge of the iris, keeping that inner ring lighter while defining the striations. I add a few short, dark lines radiating from the limbo ring, along with darker blotches inside the iris. I add the shadow cast by the upper lid onto the sclera, or white of the eye. To shape the eyeball, I darken the inner corner and fade it outward. Then use my 0.3mm mechanical pencil to draw faint and thin veins for added realism. I repeat the process on the other side. Next, I shade the lacrimal caruncle, leaving a few spots nearly white for highlights to suggest the tear duct's natural wetness. Now, I draw the lower lashes using the same approach as before. They start shorter near the inner corner and lengthen towards the outer edge. Then, I gently shade the lower lid, keeping the overall tone very light. Next, I shade the lower half of the face beneath the eye, focusing on skin texture. I start by shading along the lower lid's contour, adding a few fine cracks and lines. With a kneaded eraser, I lift a strong highlight near the inner corner. The skin in this area has tiny uneven bumps, so I begin with a light base tone and lightly trace small irregular circles, adding faint shadows beneath them for depth. Layering these details with the paper's natural grain creates a realistic organic skin texture. Even if you're just drawing the eye, add some shading below to ground it. I'm extending mine for a more finished look, since I plan to add this piece to my wall of new pencil drawings, but you can keep yours simpler. Next, I shade along the side of the cheek, building tone with short, curved, and vertical lines that follow the natural contour of her face. Using my mechanical pencil, I even out the tone to reduce blotchiness while keeping a touch of the paper's texture. I also slightly darken the subtle under-eye creases to enhance their texture. Additionally, a few small, uneven dark spots along the nose and cheek suggest freckles or sunspots. Since I'm aiming for a more finished piece rather than a study, I add a section of her hair in the upper left. I start with a wavy outline to define the edge, then shade inside it, layering dark strands that follow the same flow. Earlier, I chose not to use a blending stump so the paper's grain could enhance the skin texture. Here though, I use a tissue to gently soften a few areas where the strokes feel too dark or harsh, being careful not to overdo it. For this final pass, I focus on enhancing key areas, deepening shadows for stronger contrast, smoothing transitional values to add tonal depth, and introducing more skin texture through subtle bumps, spots, and creases. You know, it's funny. I originally planned to focus purely on drawing the eye, but along the way, I decided to give myself more work. That's pretty typical of me. I tend to make things a bit more complicated than they really need to be. Still, I felt inspired to shade the surrounding face, so I just went with it. In that sense, this video became as much about the eye itself as about the skin that frames it. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the process and found something useful for your own art journey. From here, I'll let the music play and the final shading unfold. And that's a wrap for this piece. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button, drop a comment, and consider subscribing. In the next video, I plan on covering how to draw realistic lips, and I hope to see you guys there.